them is going to go into detail a little bit about their own personal journeys with cannabis, how it's contributed to their life, helped them through some turmoils, all that fun stuff. So I just want to take a second, to say thank you guys for being here, but also thank you guys for being up on stage and sharing kind of your journeys with us. I very, very much appreciate it. So Patrina here is going to be sharing with us how cannabis has helped her and her husband both to manage their insomnia, their pain management, to help with anxiety. So she's going to touch on how that's all helped. Alex, on the other hand, is going to share more of a social aspect with us and how the cannabis industry kind of found him. They came to him, they kind of pulled him out of his social circle of life that he was in, and he's evolved into the industry from there and met a lot of really great friends in the process. And then Tina, I've got Tina here, who, again, I want to applaud you for being up on stage. Tina is a veteran who suffers from severe PTSD due to military sexual trauma. So she is going to be going into detail how that has helped, cannabis has helped significantly. That's all she has used for 4 years now to help her deal with those symptoms of the PTSD. We are first going to start with Patrina. I'm just going to take a seat here. So Patrina, as mentioned, you may have heard me talking about the High Moms Club this weekend. So that's where Patrina here kind of made her reintroduction to cannabis. So that is an online series produced by Herb. It went super viral, super quick. And when she kind of realized, whoa, cannabis has really, really changed since my teenage years, it got her into the edible side of things. She is currently hoping to become the Paula Deen of edibles. And that's how she kind of helps to treat her and her husband through everything. So Patrina, I will let you go a little bit more into detail.
Hi everybody, I'm Patrina McBride, and as Keith said, I started as one of the High Moms in the High Moms Club. And that was kind of a trial by fire reintroduction into the cannabis. They made us make brownies for the first time, and we got super high. And we greened out for 18 hours, not even kidding. But that led me to, through that process, I started to learn that the difference between sativa and indica and how to dose. And I am a cook. I have been a cook for my whole life. And I started to incorporate that into my cooking, into my edibles. I started figuring out dosing, because through the brownies I discovered that too much is very, very bad. And so I figure out through online calculators how to do my dosing and treat it out that way. That has expanded my horizons so much. I've got Mutter's Butters now, where I do the shows like this, where I do demonstrations, and then I publish the recipe for anybody to use online. And that's developed into me attending these shows and doing this kind of thing. But what cannabis has helped with in our family is so many different things. At one point in my life, I was 440 pounds, and I had gastric bypass surgery. I lost 280 pounds. But the problem with gastric bypass surgery is you can never have NSAIDs ever again. You can never have ibuprofen. You can never have anything along those lines, not even topically, because they get into your system and destroy the stomach lining under your stomach. So I was, with arthritis in my hips and I had 2 artificial knees from being 440 pounds, I was not sleeping at all. So I discovered that cannabis could help alleviate the symptoms in my arthritis that would let me go get through the night, and the inflammation from the damp, achy joint pain just get me through my day, right? So that's when I said, Dave, my husband, this is working for me. Why don't you try it, buddy? And he's like, oh, I can't. I'm a welder. I'm up on ladders and stuff. But okay, so don't take it during work hours. Like, this is not a complicated thing, you know. But he started using it, and now we are regular users. I make my own CBD oil too that gets us through the day part of our day. And between that and the anxiety and anything else that comes up to interfere with our day, the CBD and the THC have been real lifesavers where we're concerned. And now we're really proponents of getting the word out there on how different things are now from when we were 17 years old and hidden behind somebody's house, you know? So I really want to get the word out, and I'm so glad to see so many older people and novices here that are learning for the first time. Novice? Novice? She's no newbie. But yeah, so spread the word. I think it behooves everybody that uses cannabis for medicinal purposes to get the word out there and spread the word how beneficial it can be for everybody.
Thank you so much, Patrina. And I think, yeah, it's very important what you said about the dosing when it comes to things. I feel like that's definitely, like, once it happens, it terrifies you. Like, you don't want to go back down there. I've done the same thing. My dad found me passed out on the couch. I had missed the last period of high school because I ate wheat brownies, and it didn't end well at all. So, yeah, I think that's the one thing, though, and for people to not listen to anybody else as well, because it is so beneficial, the medical use of cannabis. And once people kind of know the facts and they know it's not all to be scared of and just within your dosing, so that's great that you offer that with them too, because that is a very important piece of info for anyone who has ever over-edibilized, for lack of a better word. So next up, I am going to have Alex kind of share with you guys how cannabis helped him through some things. So the funny thing is that cannabis is not something that Alex was into. It's not an industry that he had really dipped into at all. He was actually on the complete opposite side of things in the alcoholic craft brewery industry. Cannabis kind of called out to him, and he's met a lot of really, really great friends in the process. He's made a lot of really good social connections, and so he's going to kind of go into detail about how cannabis helped that side of things.
Thank you very much, Keats. So yeah, I kind of took an unconventional route into the cannabis space. My partner and I, we moved out to Banff in 2015, ski bums, just regular cannabis users. We used recreationally, went out to live in Banff, and then upon moving to Kelowna the year after, I was actually selling alcohol, as Keats mentioned, at the liquor depot in BC. I was the regional distributor, beer rep for a lot of the beer companies. Meanwhile, my partner was one of the first bud tenders at the illegal Kaya clinic in Kelowna. It was the first non-regulated clinic to open in Kelowna. And if anyone knows Kelowna, there's a lot of black market cannabis grown all over the place in BC. It's kind of the good BC bud that you hear about is all around Kelowna. So it was kind of destigmatizing for me to see that I was working in, alcohol sales on a native reserve, promoting the drinking and use of money and finances for an alcoholic substance that I could physically see hurting the community. Meanwhile, across the street on the downtown Kelowna side, my girlfriend right in downtown Kelowna is selling this cannabis product, and they're being raided by the RCMP every day. They're losing their well-being. Like, she would go weeks, without work because their store is shut down or shuttered. I then went to do some alcohol marketing in Vancouver. Again, cannabis, black market was flourishing in Vancouver at the time. And it was amazing to me that alcohol, there's really there are restrictions on how you can market it, but it's being used as a recreational substance everywhere. You can, have attractive people in advertisements, lifestyle advertisements. And I just saw this catch-22 with the way that cannabis was being treated, which led me to work at Cannabis Culture in Vancouver, where I actually did expose myself to the medical patients. Myself being a recreational patient, I never did use cannabis medically. I used it for fun. But opening my eyes to the real world of people, upwards of 50, people I put out of the typical just using cannabis for fun category, who are using cannabis every day to get through with their ailments, their legitimate illnesses that they claim cannabis helps. So I felt personally conflicted, and I felt the need to do more. I worked in the nonprofit world in Vancouver at an HIV/AIDS clinic, again, not cannabis focused, and I saw how the cannabis clinics in Vancouver were giving back to the HIV/AIDS community, and I was like, wow, these people care. this is a great community. I moved back to Toronto and I actually got involved in cannabis PR. Right off the bat, I was like, you know, this is an area I'm really interested in. I can transfer my skills that I've developed from alcohol sales into cannabis. And I do think generally my work with Norml Canada, we're working every day to destigmatize cannabis use. I'd like to see it get to the point where alcohol is at right now, but we can all acknowledge here in this room today that alcohol is probably the more damaging of the two substances. Like, I've seen firsthand how it hurts communities, and I've seen firsthand how cannabis has helped communities. So that's sort of how I stumbled my way into this crazy, wacky, wild west of cannabis.
Thank you, Alex, and absolutely agreed. I think, in my personal opinion, of course, alcohol is just 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10 times, not the route to go. And even if you have a good night, you feel like a bag of poop in the morning, and it's not worth it, and it tears people apart, and you make poor choices. And like you said, the cannabis community, I mean, it has its highs and lows like anything else, but it's a community at the end of the day. Like, alcohol does not try to be a community, or anything else for that matter. And even age groups, like you said, to the upwards of 50, like, I think it's huge for us to also respect the fact that that is where a lot of people, like in the medical aspect, are coming, is that higher age group that was thrown into the prohibition and into like all that banning and into like every negative thought that they have about it. So it's great to see everybody coming out and giving it a second chance. And I just think, like, you guys up here just keep spreading the good stuff and letting people know, and eventually those who are going to shift are going to shift. And we can't change everyone, but we can sure try. So last with me, I'm going to hand the mic over to Tina. So as I had mentioned before, Tina served for 16 years in the military. So she was 8 years. Oh, 8 years. I don't know where I got 16 from. So 8 years in the military, and due to some sexual trauma from that, she has struggled with severe PTSD ever since then. She has been managing, like I mentioned, cannabis only for 4 years now, which is huge to anybody who has PTSD or struggles with that, to be able to manage it on one single thing alone. So again, thank you so much. I know it's not easy for you to be up here on stage, but that's okay, because we welcome in the Canna community with open arms. Tina.
Thank you. So yes, my name's Tina. I am a veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces, and I served in the Canadian Armed Forces from 1994 till 2002. I was 17 when I joined, and similar to Alex, it was very much an alcohol culture. At 17, it was, we were sort of told, don't drink underage, but here, have some shots. We were also, taught things like, you don't drink 8 hours before you come on duty. But as it approached, if it's getting close to midnight, we'd start pounding everything back. We were never taught how to be responsible with alcohol, and alcohol and men and women in stressful situations can sometimes lead to bad things. But the other experience that I had was with injuries. I have some bad injuries, and it was really easy to just feed me, 400 milligram ibuprofen or Motrin 4 to 6 hours a day, with the alcohol on top of that. But if I had smoked one joint, my entire career would have been over. I would have been dishonorably discharged from the Canadian Armed Forces. When I released in 2002, it was shortly after that my mental health my mental health issues started to sort of come up a little bit. And I was diagnosed with depression and started on antidepressants. And I was eventually diagnosed with PTSD in 2004. And the medical system, they don't really know, there's not really any pharmaceuticals specifically for PTSD. There's a certain amount of trial and error. And over a 12-year period, I would say I was probably on 12 different types of medication. I'd start on one and be a low dose and slowly taper up. And I'd start to, some of my symptoms would be relieved, but I'd have other side effects and other things coming on, so they'd increase the dose or add another medication to it to try and balance things out. And if that didn't work, I'd slowly then have to taper off of that medication and on something new. And I really felt like a guinea pig. It was kind of like medication roulette. And it did take its toll on my ability to attend work on a regular basis and to function. And with mental health issues, it's often really difficult for me. It was difficult for me to remember to take my medication. And I would sometimes go 2-3 days in a funk and forget to take my meds. And when I started to come out of that funk, I was then experiencing withdrawal and the side effects of not having had my medication. On top of what it does to your body, you know, missing your antidepressants can mess with your liver and have long-term effects. So 12 meds over 12 years, I lost my job. I was a permanent employee with the City of Toronto, and due to my inability to attend work regularly, I lost my job. And that's when a lot of my issues from the military surfaced, or that fall down for me. And unfortunately, losing my job, I also lost my medical coverage. And the antidepressants I was on at the time were incredibly expensive. I'd already started sort of self-medicating a bit with cannabis. I found that it gave me relief. It helped me be able to sleep. If I was really anxious, it could calm me down. So in 2015, with my doctor's assistance, I did taper off of pharmaceuticals, all traditional pharmaceuticals, and that's when I first got my cannabis prescription. I started with a low dose, similar to when you start on any new medication, prescribed medication. I started on a low dose. I started at 1 gram a day, using low percentage THC, CBD. And I found for me I needed to slowly increase my dosage. So right now I am currently using 8 grams of cannabis a day. I do mix it up with edibles and some oils. And I have found that 8 grams is a lot to either be eating or smoking. It's almost a full-time job, and I don't always want to necessarily be walking into the bank, say, for an appointment, smelling like I'm just medicated. So what I do now is I use rosin and concentrates as my main form of medication. It's completely changed my ability to medicate and feel medicated properly, to get the full benefits of the plant and the terpenes and all the good stuff. And it's also given me an opportunity to get out and back into the veteran community and to give back. I'm a veteran ambassador with Canna Connect, and I travel around Ontario with my rosin press, and I teach rosin 101 classes to veterans and first responders and their amazing spouses, and teach them healthier alternatives to use their cannabis and to medicate properly.
Thank you so much, Tina. And definitely on the mental health side of things, I think it's great that there is more knowledge and more wisdom being shared with the public about cannabis and kind of how it helps with everything, because we all struggle, in my opinion, we all struggle with some kind of mental health issue in one way or another, whether it's like social anxiety or whether it's depression or whether it's like anger, for all I care. It could be anything. Like at the end of the day, we all have something that we can benefit from. Whether you want to use cannabis, by all means, is up to you, and that's your own choice. But especially with like the veterans, first responder side of things, like the things that they see and like the suicide rates among first responders and all of that, like if there's a way for us to step in and share what we know with that community and get more people, like from there it just spreads, like it spreads like wildfire. Like the good will overrule everything else. We just need to stay consistent with what we're sharing, and we need to keep doing things like this and having people like you guys show up in the audience to listen, and then you guys can share with your people. With that being said, I have a question that I'm going to ask each of you guys, nothing major, but for people who may, of any age, be coming into the cannabis industry and they might be a little bit nervous or they don't really know where to start, what advice would you guys give them if they're unsure or if they're like, I don't really know about cannabis? Like, what's your one solid, like, you know, it's a game changer, open your mind to it. What would your piece of advice be?
For me, I think that because smoking, most people do not like smoking anymore, that if you can put your toe in the water with an edible of some form, very low dose. Start with micro-dosing. Do it in a safe environment. Do not, like I've said a couple of times on the stage this weekend, do not let the first time you take edibles be when you're on some bachelorette party in Vegas. Do not do that. That's a bad idea. So, but if you're at home and you've got a little gummy or you've got a chocolate and it's like 5 milligrams, very, very low, understand that it's not going to hit you like an opioid. You're not going to feel the crush of it as it hits. It's just going to be this mellow, soft relaxation. And then that's how you start. And then, okay, I can take a little bit more and a little bit more more. And if you're just looking to take it medicinally, you don't ever have to go above a 10 milligram or a 15 milligram if that's where your happy baseline is. If you want to use it recreationally, more power to you, but tiny, tiny doses to start. That would be my advice.
Good advice. I'd say low and slow are usually the best edibles, like from my personal experience. I would take a different approach. I guess like I would give advice to people who are looking to get into the industry, right? Like I think so many people are hungry to get their piece of the pie. The way I look at it is you want to get into the industry or you want to learn more about cannabis, the best resource you have are the people who've been fighting this fight for the last 50 to 100 years. Like we are acknowledging the fact that cannabis is newly legal here in Canada and soon to be newly legal across multiple jurisdictions in the US, internationally speaking. But I think what we need to also realize is that there's been people who've used this substance over the last thousands of years. There's tons of anecdotal evidence as to what it can help. All it takes is one trip to a vape lounge, and for me, that's what it took. It took a trip to a vape lounge to see people who are using cannabis medicinally versus how I use it, which is I have a high tolerance, but I smoke bong. I smoke my cannabis, to be honest. Whereas someone who's looking to use it medicinally, I would never recommend to smoke cannabis. It would be edibles or vaporizable products or oil tinctures. You know, I think that's the beauty of legalization is we are going to see more product types hitting the shelves. We're going to see more people wanting to try these products. Start low, start slow. And even when it comes to like Norml, I started volunteering just on a volunteer basis. I saw the work that these lawyers had done for the past 50 years, and I said, hey, you know what? I see what you're doing there. I'd love to get behind that, keep the momentum going. And I don't think Norml is by any means the only advocacy group. There's CFAM, there's Cannabis Amnesty. There's amazing work like veterans, just educating. Like I think just here on the panel alone, like I think the idea is to